Alrighty, so now on to the third part of this chapter. So here we will learn more about the reabsorption and secretion, how they're regulated to regulate the blood pressure of our body. Okay, so over here, this is talking about water reabsorption if the blood volume and blood pressure are both low. And so again, this would happen because of dehydration or blood loss. So here, if that is the case, this hormone ADH, known as antidiuretic hormone, and if you remember, this is actually made by the hypothalamus. This causes collecting ducts to release water into the capillaries. So what this means is that this is sending water to the body instead of it becoming part of urine. And so because the problem was not enough water in the body, well then this ends up fixing it. So ADH, how it does this is it puts these special water channels called aquaporins in the collecting duct walls. So then the water comes out, and then the water then goes into the capillaries that surround by the collecting duct, or it could be the vasa recta that surrounds the loop family. And so now water is then. For the loop family, we need to know that the descending part allows the water to exit, and the ascending part allows sodium to exit. Now, what this really does as a result. So here the water is coming out from the descending limb, sodium chloride comes out from the ascending limb. Here, the deeper it goes down here, it makes this outer part even saltier. This is known as becoming more hypertonic or hyperosmotic, or just know this just means salty. Yeah, so if you look here, the more sodium chloride comes out, it becomes even more salty. And so having it salty, high salty, it's also called high osmolality, increases water reabsorption at the collecting ducts because water is attracted to the salt on the outside of the collecting ducts. Water comes out, and then water gets picked up by the blood vessels that are surrounding the region. The vasa recta maintains this high osmolality. So basically, it's making sure that if the body needs water, if the body needs sodium chloride, then it can send that stuff back to the body. And so here it's just showing the sodium chloride entering it, the water entering the vasa recta. And so this is known as the countercurrent multiplier. Make sure to watch that video. And so this medullary interstitial fluid becoming hypertonic or making it salty on the outside allows for a concentrated urine to be produced, meaning less water gets lost through urine, but instead goes back to the body if the body needs that water. And so here again, the vasa recta maintains this high osmolality. We already pointed this out. The ascending limb is where the sodium and chloride ions get taken out, and the descending limb is for the water movement. So then here it's saying, since the thin descending limb is surrounded by the hypertonic fluid, H2O is able to leave it, and the fluid inside becomes more hypertonic, because if you have more salt in there versus water, now it's more hypertonic. The concentrated fluid then moves into the ascending limb, and sodium chloride is again actively resorbed. And so as this goes on, the sodium chloride concentration in the ascending limb increases or multiplies. Okay, so now next, just a few things about the waste substances that are found in urine. Urea, know that it's the waste product of amino acid metabolism when our body breaks down amino acids. And so some of it gets reabsorbed from the body, but 20% of it is excreted in urine. Versus the uric acid, know that this is the waste product of nucleic acid metabolism. Urine composition, and so it's mostly water, solutes, waste substances, and also extra nutrients. And here it's just saying mostly water here, metabolic waste products, the urea, uric acid, and also creatinine. This is the waste product of creatine phosphate that we learned about in the muscle chapter. And there might be some trace amounts of amino acids, different electrolytes, and I'm just going to put in here also extra nutrients that the body does not need. Renal clearance, this means that how fast a chemical is removed from the body by the kidneys. So how fast this urine is formed. The different types of these tests that are done. So this is really just to see that the kidneys are functioning correctly. This can be done, the inulin clearance test, so it's actually looking at polysaccharides. And so this would be given to the patient before the test. And then this would be measured in the urine of the patient. Creatinine clearance test is another one. And so then here it's saying, since these substances are both filtered by the glomerulars, neither is reabsorbed or secreted. That's why this helps to also see the filtration rate, to see how fast the kidneys or the glomeruli are filtering the blood. Storage and elimination of urine. And so again, we have seen already now that nephrons are the ones that are making the urine. Then the urine is going to flow down the collecting ducts. Then the nephrons, or the collecting ducts, open into the minor calyces. The end parts of the pyramids are called the papillae. Okay, so then the urine goes first in the minor calyces, which then connect into the major calyces. Renal pelvis refers to this central part of the kidneys. Then the ureters are the tubes that take the kidneys, or I should say take the urine out of the kidneys. Ureters connect to the bladder, and then the urethra is then the outer canal that takes the urine to the outside. This is what the ureter looks like. It's able to expand because it is made up of transitional epithelial tissue. And at the bottom here it says renal calculi. This is just another word for kidney stones. Okay, in case you see this on your test, make sure you're going to put a note by that. Chronic kidney disease, chronic glomerulonephritis. So here, let's underline for this inflammation of the glomerular capillaries. And so as a result, the filtration is not how it used to be before. This is a progressive degenerative disease. With, unfortunately, no cure. Only a kidney transplant would fix this. Some of the symptoms, hypertension, proteinuria, hematuria. This just means that the body is losing a lot of the nutrients because especially reabsorption is not able to be performed here. Secretion also kind of decreases. And so the treatment for kidney disease, dialysis helps, but only to a certain extent. Kidney transplant would be the best option for this. Urinary bladder, so it just stores the urine. At the bottom, there is this triangular region in the bladder that is called a trigon. So this region is where the two ureters attach to the bladder. And at the bottom, the urethra comes out of the bladder in this region. The bladder is made up of this muscle called the detrusor muscle. Internal urethral sphincter is the exit out of the bladder. This internal urethral sphincter is involuntary. This is controlled by the brain, especially by the pons. Okay, so now here we're seeing the picture of the bladder. So this bottom kind of a triangular region is the trigon region. The muscle in the wall is the detrusor muscle. And so now here we're seeing the one on the left is, both of these pictures are showing the male, showing the prostate gland that surrounds the urethra in the male. In the female, of course, no prostate gland. The urethra just flows or runs down in front of the vagina. And here it says the internal urethral sphincter is right at the base of the bladder. And so this opening, or this gate, is controlled by the brain. And now here we're seeing the female on the left side, the male on the right side. And it shows here is the bladder. and the urethra is running in front of the vagina here. But in the male, the urethra is pretty long because it goes inside the penile tissue here. And so again, in both of these, at the base of the bladder is the internal urethral sphincter. But a little bit lower than that is the external urethral sphincter. Cross section of the urethra looks kind of similar to the ureters. And so again here, the top one is showing for the female. They did not label it here, but the internal urethral sphincter is this muscular part there. External urethral sphincter is at the end part. And in the male, the internal urethral sphincter is here at the base. External urethral orifice, they're showing it. That's the exit out of the penile tissue. Micturition means urination. Know that these two things need to happen for urination to occur. Relaxation of both the urethral sphincters and also contraction of the detrusor muscle. To prevent micturition or urination, here, the external urethral sphincter that we're able to control, this ends up getting closed and this prevents urination. Okay, so again, here at the bottom it says internal urethral sphincter is involuntary. The external urethral sphincter, more later than the internal one, that's the voluntary one. Urinalysis, we're going to do a little lab based on this to diagnose certain diseases or disorders, or to check for drugs. For example, here it says people with untreated diabetes mellitus will have a lot of glucose in their body because in those people, there's a lot of glucose in the blood vessels because the glucose cannot go into the cells. And then we're also going to see that some substances end up changing the color of the urine. So beeturia, so here it says after eating beets, the urine can turn pink, or after eating asparagus, the urine can turn yellow. Lifespan changes as we get older. Kidneys become slower. It's harder for them to get rid of the waste substances from our body. The filtration gets slower. So here it says kidneys can appear scarred or grainy due to connective tissue accumulation. Kidney cells can die. This kind of a scary thought here. By age 80, the kidneys have lost a third of their cells, their mass. And so the kidney shrinkage, this shrinkage is due to the loss of glomeruli, fortunately. Proteinuria means loss of proteins through the urine. Renal tubules thicken and making it harder for reabsorption to occur and to get rid of certain substances as a result. One more thing here, kidneys. Kidneys are very important for activating vitamin D, but so as we get older, kidneys become less able to activate the vitamin D. People on dialysis have very low active vitamin D in their bodies, and so they need a good supplement of vitamin D to accommodate for the kidney's loss of function.